Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. I am Zachimus Prime, aka Zachimus Prime, bringing you something that I hope is insightful. I have got, as you can see, all of the third-party springers, and I'm going to be comparing each and every one of them. I'm not doing the transformations for them all, because then that would make this video like 3 hours long, and who wants to watch a feature-length toy review? But I am going to compare each and every one in their particular modes and point out a few things about the pros and the cons, some of the things I like, some of the things I don't, and give my thoughts and opinions on it. Granted, these are just my thoughts and opinions, but there we go. Springer is a character who first appeared in the 1986 Transformers movie, and he was basically he's a triple changer, which means that he's got one mode for the ground and one mode for the air and one mode as a robot. And each and every one of these is their own different particular take or iteration of it. And I think probably the first thing to go over is just in terms of color. I think color is a really important thing for characters. You can see that they've all got a similar color palette, you know, light green, dark green, yellow, gray. They've all got different things about it though. In terms of color, the one that I certainly think sticks out is the Toy World one. Now the Toy World one is not based off of the toy design particularly, or the animation design. It's not meant to be a Masterpiece style or even a Masterpiece stand-in figure. What it is this is basically based off of, I don't know if I ever saw an actual Studio Ox Springer, or if this is just, I know that they made a Studio Ox Seeker and they made a Studio Ox series of Constructicons. They made a Studio Ox Optimus Prime. Their cup was definitely based off of a Studio Ox design. And I haven't seen an actual Studio Ox line art for Springer, but here he is in that same sort of aesthetic tone. He's different from all these other ones in that he's got a full yellow chest. Now the G1 toy for him had a full yellow chest, so that kind of harkens back to that. And his shoulders are a really different shape for one. A lot more gray on him. He's really, like, the color of his thighs is a different shade of green than you know what's here on his midsection and his shoulders. He also does have like a really garish neon green that really is only reserved for this piece here, and one panel like in the inside of his chest that you don't really see. But in his robot mode is definitely characteristic by this kind of angular, chunky look to it. But at the same time, especially from the front, it's a very sleek looking figure. His posability is pretty good. Because of the way his toes are, like this is the only part of his foot that's posable, is just this toe. I think that he certainly loses out in posability with some of the other figures. He does have, you know, double jointed elbows. He does have, you know, wrist swivel, which I think wrist swivel is, of course, a really important thing for any figure that is designed or intended to hold a sword. You gotta have the poses, the sword poses. In terms of backpack, I don't really like like he looks pretty sleek from the front, but when you turn him to the side, like all of this angle starts to become more and more noticeable. And that's it's kind of a two-edged sword, because on the one hand, like there's some really nice painted detail and really nice sculpted detail in here. Um, but on the other hand, it changes his silhouette so much that when you turn around to the back, like he's just got this chunk here. And I think that, especially in light of the way some of these figures deal with the backpack, like I think that he could have. I don't know that this is a pro, in any way, but that's the toy world. That's the toy world Springer. For the fan toy Springer, now I'll be straight up honest with you. I think that in terms of color, Fans Toys has got the color down pat. Like there's things that I like about the other toys and whatnot, and things that I prefer about, these different ones. But this guy has definitely got the color down pat. This shade of green, both shades of green, the shade of yellow, it's all perfect. Just absolutely perfect. It really, really looks like it stepped off the screen in terms of color. The face sculpt on this is really nice. I especially like the way they painted the eyes. Fans Toys has been doing a lot of really good work with eye detail lately, and it really shows with this one. The his posability is not super astounding. Like he will do action poses, and he'll do sword poses, and he'll do like all the cool stuff that you'd want a figure to do. He's got a nice waist joint that is not at all hindered by his backpack. But I think that all in all, I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of people are really impressed with Fans Toys. And I think that a lot of people are going to in turn be impressed with this figure. It is a very impressive figure. It's a bit frustrating to transform, but once you get used to it, it's actually not bad. He certainly is the heaviest of the lot. He's got a lot of die cast on him, most especially in the feet, the legs, and a bit comes up in his chest and whatnot. But he's got an interesting just the I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to articulate something, and it's not quite coming out. He has this really, I mean, I think that this guy comes really close to being what you would consider a masterpiece style figure to be. And I think that's what Fans Toys is really, is what their focus is when it comes to this line of figures. And I think that this is a fine example of that. But like many of their toys, I think that this is primarily going to be like a display type figure. Like you'll put him in one of the modes that you want to display it in, and you end up not messing with it, because especially with all the transformation that goes into the leg, there's a lot of joints in there. There's a lot of bits and bobs and pieces inside this section here. And it makes for a complicated transformation, and it makes for, I think some people find it to be a frustrating transformation, certainly from what I've heard from looking on the on Facebook and the internet, whatnot, TFW boards. And so, I mean, if you're the type of person who likes to handle your figures a lot, maybe this one might not be the one for you. But if you're the one who likes to display it, yeah, I think that this one might be the way to go. Next up, let's take a look at Unique Toys. Now, Unique Toys, this guy has got a really different aesthetic than all these other ones. You'll see he's a lot beefier. He's a lot chunkier. He's a lot thicker proportioned. Not like fat per se, just, you know, he's got big legs and he's got big arms and he's got big feet. You know what they say about robots with big feet. But I think the most useful takeaway from all this is I think that, especially depending on what you're looking at in the G1 show, I think that he hits the aesthetic really, really, really well. Because Springer, I mean, I think that all in all, Springer was probably intended to be a sleeker bot, but just with the way the animation was, he ended up looking a bit chunkier in a lot of shots. And I think that this definitely nails that chunkier look. Just everything is contoured, and there's hardly anything that is just straight on this figure. You know, you've got the contours and the contours and the contours, and you know, it looks like it came out of a cartoon. Actually, the only thing I don't like about this figure is the colors. It's a really bright shade of green. And I think that like this shade of green that they used for his arms, the gun, I think that could have been like the lighter shade of green, and then they could have gone with a more olive tone. Like if I could put this guy's colors on this figure, I think that would be far and away the best of this line. Gosh, you know, even his backpack like folds up really well. Like he's got the vehicle mode details that are present, but they're not like, you know, like huge and hanging out. Like he's got a respectable proportion to him, but it's not like super huge. It's not sticking out like the way this is, you know. And it's not just like a whole bunch of folded up stuff the way this one is, you know. So I mean, I think that Unique Toys has been knocking it out of the park lately, and this is absolutely no exception. The back of his lower legs is a little bit not as cleaned up, because you've got exposed wheels here and you know, parts out here. But I think that, you know, that can really be forgiven. You know, you see your figures from the front a lot, you see them from the side a bit. And you don't often look at them just like straight on from the back, unless you're pulling them down and actually like playing with them and handling and whatnot, in which case, of course, you're going to see the whole figure, all the pros and the cons, and you know, and nothing is going to be just like terrible in that mode. I like how chunky his sword is. It looks like a Roman gladius, and I think that's super cool. Just kind of a different look than you get from Springer. I also do like that he has a really, really well defined like spot that you can put your trademarked faction symbol, you know. Another thing that's good about this guy is his posability. Like all of his joints are super solid and tight. Like, I mean, you can hold this figure out and he can just basically cantilever, you know, and he's got good strong knees and good strong hips, and, you know, good strong hips. When you're playing around with him, like there are some, like this tab will tend to come undone a little bit, but you know, you quickly learn to just kind of hold on to it, you know, put your thumb here or your finger there while you're moving things around. But I think that it's really good. The face sculpt is not quite as great as Fans Toys, I think, but I think that, you know, I think that all in all, this figure is very good, especially since I Big Bad Toy Store was at one point, I don't know if they are anymore, but at one point they were selling it for like $60. They're like, hey, yeah, $60, let's get rid of it. Which is strange. Like I can't imagine this guy, you know, being to the point where somebody felt that they had to clearance it. Like, this strikes me as being something that would be in demand, because this is a really, really, really good figure. Unique Toys has done a really excellent job with it. And last but not least, let's take a look at Open and Play. Now this guy, first of all, is the lightest of the bunch. He doesn't really have any die cast on him. But I think that Open and Play is primarily considered to be an economical, if my mouth will work, an economical alternative to, you know, the expensive ones like Fans Toys. And I think that this guy actually, when he came out for retail, was only like $60. There are some things that are really cool about him. I like for example, this detail in here, how you've got the curve of the dick plate here, and part of it is on this hinge and it just like sucks right in. I think that that's a really cool feature. Some of the things I don't like about him, as you can see, his weapons are kind of just all flopping around, because he's got posable hands, but these come in with just a peg, and so nothing is held in a particular orientation. Nothing is held particularly securely, because I mean peg joints work through friction, and if you're not able to put the pressure on it, then the friction just isn't going to be there. He does subscribe more to the sleek Springer, and you can see he's really sleek. Like he's got he's got the little engine details back here, but like there's no bulk to it whatsoever. And I think that that's really cool, actually. I think that that's a I mean, he's going for the sleeker Springer, and I think that he does it really, really, really well. I'm not saying whether or not the sleeker is the preferred look. I think that all comes down to personal opinion and you know, what your personal interpretation and impression of Springer is, because that's really what it comes down to. Is, I mean, it's your collection, it's your toys, it's your money. You're going to spend it however you like. And really, I mean, I'm giving my thoughts, but ultimately what comes down to it is you're going to decide which one you like better. And so that's why I'm giving the good, like putting them all up side by side and whatnot. The other elephant in the room that we should all address is the fact that this torso tab does not fit in like with any degree of secure at all. It'll just come around and you grab his arm and you move it, and it just all comes up, and you know, you gotta like put your thumb right here and just hold it anytime you move anything on him, because otherwise it's just gonna all go crazy. I gotta take that out. That's bugging me. Just in the course of this interview, that's bugging me. I think that it probably wouldn't have been too hard. Like he's got these slots in here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, he's got these slots in here. That's actually a slot that corresponds to a tab that you see on the underside of his leg. When he's in actually both of his modes, it fits into there and helps keep things securely. And I can't imagine that it would have been difficult to like have something like fold out. You've got this whole section right here. If we pull that down, you've got this whole section that flips around here. And I can't imagine it would have been difficult to like put something in there that was like slide out and like fit into there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being really crazy about this, but I think that something could have been done to make that be more secure. And I think that this is, in terms of playability, one of the biggest marks against this figure. But I mean, he's well proportioned. He's nicely detailed. He's quite articulate. And I think all in all, he looks really good. I think his face is not the best. He has this kind of like pouty face, duck face going on, which I think is a bit weird. He almost looks like, I don't know, some bratty kid from a 90s show or whatnot. But, you know, if you're looking for a Springer and not really particularly picky about which one, this one I know is an inexpensive option, and I think that is a strong point to consider as well. All in all, if I was looking at the robot modes, in terms of color and proportion, I would probably go with Fans Toys. Just because I think that one stands out just a little bit above Unique Toys and quite a bit more above Open and Play and Toy World. So that's it for the robot mode. Next up, we're going to do the car mode. 1 hour later. All right. So real quickly, actually, I want to take this moment to switch gears a little bit and go into the metaphysics of Transformers. In that, so you've got a Transformer, right? And it transforms, say, from like a robot into a truck. We'll just use Optimus Prime as an example here. So all the different parts of him need to do two different things, you know, like, so his legs they have to be legs, but they also have to be the back end of a truck, you know. And the arms have to be arms, but they also have to be like the sides of the front of the truck, you know, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Each piece has got two roles. And so there are some allowances, you have some considerations you have to make for one mode or the other, you know. For example, again, using Optimus Prime as an example, the Masterpiece Optimus Prime, when he turns into a truck, the back end of that truck, the blue back end of the truck, is like really thick and chunky. If you ever looked at an actual truck, it's not like that at all. And the fact of the matter is that his legs have to go somewhere. They have to change the realism or change the how it's supposed to look to make allowances for, well, his legs have to go somewhere. They can't just simply disappear. And so when you have triple changers, that kind of gets exaggerated a little bit. Like everything now, instead of doing two things, now does three things, you know, to some degree. Some parts just go into a position and stay there through both modes. But, and so you find it really prevalent, especially in triple changers, that one of the modes is sacrificed to make the other modes look better. For example, if anybody here has ever had a G1 Astro Train, the robot mode sucks, just straight up. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Same with the G1 Broadside. The robot mode just was a pile of... Actually, the robot mode, yeah, it was pretty bad. I was just thinking that the airplane mode on that figure was really bad as well. But the boat mode was really good, you know? And so, and you see that even nowadays, if you ever had a Classics Astro Train from 2007, 2008, you'll know that the robot mode is good and the shuttle mode is pretty good. But the train mode, like half of it's good and half of it's just the shuttle wings draped over the back of the train. So I want to point out that all these figures have got some sort of allowance, and some of it shows through. Like, for example, on the Toy World one, Um, it's a helicopter with wheels, and I mean, this was the mode that was I think made the most sacrifices um, to make the rest of them work, and and you'll find, given the company, given the designers, given what you're working with, some of them like make those considerations really well, and some of them have got some more work on it. Um, so for this one, you can tell like all this stuff just kind of goes out here, and hey, look, it's the back of a helicopter, but facing the other way, and the engine still sticks way out on the top. Um, the diecast it plays really well into this because you've got this big chunk of diecast on the front and two smaller chunks of diecast on the back, and it balances this figure really well. And when you hold it, it just feels solid all the way across because of the way the center of gravity is like right in the middle. Um, I think that definitely. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is, I think, his weakest mode. Um, the little, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't want to stay tabbed, even though it's supposed to. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't really tab anywhere. You just kind of put it up there and hope nobody really notices it. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't really close things off properly. Though I can say it does have an opening cockpit. That's fun, with 2 seats inside. 2 seats. So you and your buddy can ride in the I don't even know what you would call this thing. But yeah, Toy World, I don't know. It's not my favorite. It's not like an atrocity. Like the Toy World RC, but it's not really good either. Oh, also he's still got those tiny wheels. In my review, I mentioned how like comically tiny his wheels look. Yeah, they still do. Though I mean, all of these guys have small looking tires, but for some reason, I don't know why, but they just look smaller. Maybe it's because proportionately there's less rubber and more hub on it. I don't know. So here's the Fans Toys vehicle mode, and it's big, it's heavy, it's really back heavy. Like when you pick it up, like it's a lot heavier in the back than it is in the front. Of course, still by far, Fans Toys is the heaviest of the 4 figures. The colors still really pop in here. He does also have an opening cockpit, no actual seat detail in there, but whatever. I mean, if you're looking at seat size, like these things are like, it's a car the size of a house. So think about that for a moment. um, he's really wide in the front. I guess this is one of the things I do like about the Toro one, is that it seems to be fairly even all the way across. Whereas this one is really wide in the front and it gets really narrow in the back, and it just is just emphasized like really strong with this figure. I don't know why it keeps on sticking out to me so much, but it does. And I can't even necessarily say that I hate it. It's just something that I notice whenever I pick it up, and I'm just like, man, it's like really wide in the front, really narrow in the back. But everything on it tabs together really fantastically. The alt mode goes together really well. I mean, I don't really have anything really negative to say about it, but I don't have like all the biggest positives about it either. The transformation back end is kind of a pain in the ass. The front end is quite simplistic, actually. Getting everything to fit together in the chest mode, I mean, like, it's a bit of a chore, but you only have to do it once, because this whole section doesn't do anything between alt modes. So that's something. He does have these actually all have gun storage. I haven't been showing it off, but yeah. The gun kind of fits in, slots in between these yellow spots here and sticks over the top like a big old tank turret. But I do like, one of the things I can say is that I do like how it's a lot lower this way than some of these other ones, and that kind of helps with the whole like 80s sci-fi, like retro sci-fi look to it. Whereas like this guy, he's very big in the middle. In terms of alt mode, so I want to say first and foremost, the transformation on this guy is excellent. I may see about making a review specifically for this one. Like seriously, if you guys, I mean, leave me a comment if you want me to review this guy by himself. But the transformation of this guy is really, really nice. Whereas like these are the arms on this guy, and these are the arms on this guy, and these are the arms on this guy. These are the feet. And they go all the way from the leg, just goes all and just panels up all along the side, and the feet just show up here. And that's super cool. And I like how if you're the eagle-eyed among you will notice that this is not the same chest. It's got all the same details, and it's got all the same it's even got a little spot for a copyrighted faction symbol. But it's not the same chest. Like the this mode, you turn it into his robot mode, and this just like ninjas out. And this one just ninjas in, you know? So that's really cool. Like this figure is actually quite a joy to transform. Oh, I should probably put those. I like, there's even, so if you rewind a few minutes back to the robot mods, you'll notice that I didn't pull these panels out because I forgot. Because I've got 4 figures here. Got to give me a little bit of a break. Otherwise, leave me a comment about how much I suck. You can see where they made their sacrifices in this mode. Like this is all open in the back and whatnot. But I mean, it looks really good. Like I mean, this one, if you were to see this run down the road, especially when you try to factor in how big this is, you know, proportionately, like with a human figure, like this is like a fucking like house truck going down the road. This is, because it's taller, it gives the impression of being a smaller vehicle, which makes when you put it in vehicle mode next to your other Masterpiece style figures, makes it seem less out of place, less you know, scale wise weird. Now I know that scale is real hit and miss with the Transformers, and this is absolutely no exception. But yeah, in terms of engineering, like I like this one. It gets from point A to point B, and it does so in a concise and enjoyable way. And I really like that. For the open and play, it's just cute. I mean, your first real thought when you look at it is that compared to like these other ones, you're like, man, that's only like half of a car. Like this part looks great, and this part is like, wait a second, what? You know? But you know, proportionately, it makes for a smaller, chunkier car. I really like how the center section of this like folds out and widens this cockpit area for the car mode. I think that's super cool. I like how this part is part of the chest that flips around and kind of blends in with this and helps to add some cohesiveness to it. And I like how, I think the way it transforms into a car is really quite clever. You know, like I was saying with the robot mode part of this is that I mean, this isn't my favorite figure, but this is definitely a good figure, and it is definitely an economical figure. I believe that MSRP, like, this is the cheapest of all four of these figures. Um, and you know, I mean, this is good enough that like you could get one of these guys to display, and then still have enough to pick this guy up to handle him. So but I do like his little alt mode. It's fun. It's cute. I like it. Um, if I were to go with one out of this whole group, I would say that in terms of transformation and ingenuity, Unique Toys is still killing it. So yeah, that's how the lineup is so far. Robot mode went to Fans Toys. The car mode goes to Unique Toys. Let's put them into their helicopter mode. See how that looks. Da, 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 da. So here they are, all in their helicopter modes. And again, I mean, while I'm going through them, I want you to notice some of the, some of the allowances, that some of the accommodations that they've made to make all the different modes work. Again, we're going to start with Tour World. Tour World, it makes for a really thick helicopter. And like I know I'm sitting here saying that like the car mode is not the strongest mode. But I feel that there's a lot of considerations made to the helicopter mode as well. And it's got these little launcher things. Of course, I mean, this is, of course, because his legs have got to go somewhere, and they're big, chunky legs, and there's not a lot of ingenuity that goes into making the legs work, and so they just end up being these chunks that have to sit around here, and I mean, it helps make his car mode pretty wide, but it also makes his helicopter mode really wide, and I mean, this is a figure that excels in, I mean. Okay, straight up, I'm going to tell you that this is not a bad figure at all, by any stretch of the imagination. When I gave my review, I said that it was a good figure, and it is. I stand by that. But in light of all of these other Springers doing all the things that we expect Springer to do, I'm not going to say that it's the best Springer, arbitrarily. I mean, again, that comes down to, your personal collection and your personal likes and dislikes and what you feel you want to have. And I think that there are many merits worth picking this figure up. I don't know that pure, aesthetic quality over one of these other ones is necessarily one of them. I can tell you that he can hold a box underneath here. If you had a box that was the right size, you just kind of like stick it in there, and he could hold it. Oh, also his nose comes out just the tiniest amount. Like that much. Oh wait, that actually changed a lot. Maybe this is the most amazing one after all. Kidding. Next is Fans Toys. So Fans Toys. So if you're looking at the whole thing, like even from the underbelly, like I think that this cleans up fairly well. I'm not going to say that's terrible. It is kind of a chore to get out, because I mean, this whole section here, this is all the leg, all the way out front and back. I do like that these parts, like these pylons, flip around in a really nice way to change the look of the helicopter mode versus the car mode, because that's really the biggest thing, is that, you know, you want the car mode to look more like a car and the helicopter to look more like a helicopter. Um, and unfortunately with Springer, the way he's designed, you know, with the engines and thrusters and stuff up on top, like they all end up looking, in their car mode, they all end up looking basically like helicopters with wheels. Um, and, and the true test of it comes down to how well they mitigate that. There's a bit of weird shape disjointedness around here. It's not a real aesthetically pleasing shape. And you can see that they kind of put some detail in here. They put some detail in there to kind of make it look like some sort of vents or something, maybe little thrusters, but there's no corresponding detail on the back. And it just, you know, it goes from being wide to being like super narrow. And it does that really quickly. And I think that that definitely strikes as a point against the Fans Toys Apache. I think Apache is stronger in its car mode than it is in its helicopter mode, and strongest in its robot mode. And I think that robot mode is where it should be strongest, but car mode is definitely stronger on that guy. On this one, Unique Toys. Unique Toys again impresses me. I mean, I'm not going to say that this is a perfect figure, but it looks so much like a helicopter in this mode. Like it gets the silhouette like really, really well. And I mean, the only thing that bugs me in car mode and helicopter mode is this little flap doesn't like to sit around, and I wish that it tabbed in somewhere. I wish that it connected somehow and stayed in place better. But you know, that's a minor thing. You've still got a little bit of shape disjointedness here as it goes over the kneecap. Though without engineering some other thing into the kneecap, like I don't know how they could have fixed that. I mean, yeah, they could have made something that put this out like on a little double joint and like fit into this section here. That would have been really good. Of course, then it would have made for one wobbly kneecap in robot mode. So, I mean, again, there's compromises that would need to be made about everything. I like how these parts are formed out. So, like on this guy, that's the arm, that's part of the leg, and this one, that's the arm. On this one, this is, of course, this whole part is the foot, and this is part of the foot inside. And the way this forms out, but like it all still, it's got all the appropriate like curves and angles and whatnot. I once again am very impressed with Unique Toys. They've been doing really good stuff, and this is absolutely no exception. By the way, this is also the perfect time to point out that this guy has got landing skids. None of these other guys have anything really to land on. You know, Toy World you can pull out his tires and he'll rest on his tires in the same configuration as car mode. And this guy definitely still has his tires out. But they're really for the car mode, and it'd be cool if he had something that was specific for the helicopter mode, like this guy, who has got, you know, landing skids that are specific for this mode. But I mean, you look at this curve here of the way this tail comes up, and the way it tapers down, like that really, really works really well. I like how the sword turns into the rotor. It just kind of, you know, now it looks like a rotor. I mean, yeah, sci-fi rotor, you know, but it doesn't really look as much like a sword anymore, you know. And I think that this one does it better than some of these other guys. I'm going to say especially better than Open Play and Tour World. I don't know, but even Fans Toys has got some like weird undercuts on it. So I'm really impressed with this guy. I really like it a lot. And I mean, I knew coming into this that by and large, the decision was going to come down to between Fans Toys and Unique Toys. Um, and so let's take a look at the open and play. Open and play again just comes in with the like adorableness factor. It makes for this cute little stumpy helicopter, and it's got all the right shapes and it's got all the right fins. It's like really big here and really small back here. It kind of gives the impression of one of those Japanese like super deformed or chibi thingamajigs. Again, another shout out to Open and Play for making that cockpit design where it collapses down for the helicopter mode, expands out for the car mode. I think that that's really cool. I like that it's got this little panel right here folds out, and it just folds out for this mode. And it didn't, I mean, it doesn't even really need to be there, but it's kind of fun that it is, you know. Like Open and Play, they did put a lot of cleverness into their design, and it doesn't have the same level of engineering, you know, as Fans Toys or Unique Toys, but they did put a lot of really good work into it, and I really, I mean, for the size and for the price point, like this is a nice little piece of a figure. I just, I'm not sure that it can really compete in any of its modes except for the robot mode, and even then mostly in display because of that, chest function. I you know, I like it. It's cute, but it certainly wouldn't be my first choice. So robot mode went to Fans Toys, I think. Car mode went to Unique Toys, and I think the helicopter mode is also going to go to Unique Toys. Overall, I would definitely, if I had to choose one figure out of these four to take home and be part of my collection, and I'm suspecting that anybody watching this is curious as to which figure they want to take home and put in their collection. I really think that Unique Toys is where it's at. It would be more perfect, I think, if it was the colors of Fans Toys, but the engineering and sculpt of Unique Toys. I think that would be a perfect figure all around. But even as it stands, like I think that this is a really good figure, and I think that it's absolutely worth looking at. I think that it fits in with the masterpiece aesthetic, especially the more cartoon oriented masterpiece aesthetic that we've been getting with the Takara masterpieces lately, and or like the Maki Toys Howling Meteor. Man, that's a fantastic figure too, by the way. But yeah, I think that Unique Toys definitely knocks it out of the park with this, and that's going to be, of these four, that would definitely be my recommendation. Anyhow, if you stayed all the way through this, man, you are so awesome, because like I got partway through and I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to go all the way through this. But you guys are awesome. Everybody be good to each other. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.